So we'll have some behavior that we would like to change about ourselves. And we can't really all want to help someone else to change their behavior in a positive way. So maybe it's your kind, your spouse, your colleague. So I want to share some news with you that I think reveals something really important about what get people to change their behavior. But before I do that, let's do some one strategy that I think you probably can a lot. So let's you are trying to stop yourself from saying what do you tell about yourself. Well, most people in a monolith will say, beware, beware you will be fed. And it's what's your kind. You will probably tell him that smoking kill. And by the way, he is a big.
So, what we try to do here is we try to script ourselves on others into change their behavior. And it's not just us, warning and threats are really common in health campaigns, in policies, and because we all share this deep rule belief that if you can threaten people, if fears include, it will get them to act. And it seems like a really reasonable assumption. Example, for the first that the signs show the warning have very limited page on behavior. So graphic image on cigarette practice, for example, do not deter smoker from smoking, and one study found that after looking at this image, acting actual became a lower priority for smoker. So I'm not saying that warning and threats never work, but what I'm saying is on average they seem to have a very limited impact. And so the question is why? Why are resistant to warnings?
Well, if you think about animals, when you indulge far in animals, the most common response you will see is freezing or fleeing. Fighting, not as much, and so humans are the same. So if something scratches you, we tend to shoot down, and we try to eliminate the negative feelings. So we make use rationalization. For example, you make tell yourself, my grandpa smoked. He lives to be 90. So I have really good cans and absolutely nothing to worry about. And this is process can actually make you feel uh, more resilient than you did before. We is did warning something have this is boomerang effect. In other times, we sample put our head in the ground. Uh, Take the stock market for example. Do you know when people pull their head out of the ground to look at their account? Not to make a transaction, just to log in to check their account. So you saw what you're saying her in black in 5 is the 500 over 2 years, and in gray this is the number of times that people wronged in the their accounts that to check. And this is data from classroom Lewiston and Sapi. It's control for all the options confounds. So, what do we see?
When the market is high, people change all the time because positive information makes you feel good. So use it out. And when the market is low, people with low gene because negative information makes us feel bad, so we try to avoid it altogether. And all this is true as long as bad information can reasonably be avoided. So what you don't see here is what happened few months later in the financial collapse of 2008 when the market, when plastic health started lodging Francisco, but it was a bit too late.
Think about it like this. It's not just business in many different parts of our life. We have warning signs and bad behaviors now, and they could potentially lead to all these bad outcomes later, but not necessarily so because there are different roads from your present to your future, right? It can go this way, it can go that way. And this time passes, you gather more and more information about where the wind is blowing, and at any point you can intervene and you could potentially change the outcome. But what takes energy, and you might tell yourself, but the point about worrying about something that might happen, and it might not happen until we reach this point of which time you do jump into action, but sometimes it's a little bit too late. So we want to know in my lab what type of information this leaks into people. So we conducted an experiment where we asked approximately 100 people to estimate the likelihood of 80 different negative events that might happen to them in the future.
So, for example, I might ask you what is like a hole that you'll suffer hearing loss in your future. And let's say you think it's about 50%. Then I give you the opinion of two different experts. So, expert A tells you, you know, for someone like you, I think it's only 40%. So, they give you a rosier view of your future. Expert B say, you know, for someone like you, I actually think it's about 60% it's worse. So, they give you a bleaker view of your future. What should you do? Well, you shouldn't change your beliefs, right? Wrong. What we find in that people tend to change their beliefs towards a more desirable opinion. In other words, people listen to positive information.
Now, this study was conducted on college students, so you might say college students are delusional, right? We all know that. And suddenly, we grow older, we grow wiser. So we said, okay, let's test that. Does this it is really generalize? Does it generalize to your kid? Does it generalize to your parents? Does it generalize to your spouse? And so we tested people from the age of 10 until 18, and the answer was yes. In the all, there's a group. People take in information they want to hear, like someone telling you, you are more attractive than you took. That information that they don't I want to hear. And ability to learn from good news remain quite stable throughout the lifespan, but the ability to learn from bad that changes as you age. So, what the found was the kids and teenagers were the worst at learning from bad news, and the ability become better and better as people age. But then, around the age of 14, around middle of it started.
So what this means is that the most vulnerable population, kids and teenagers, on the one hand, and the elderly on the other hand, They're the less likely to accurately learn from warnings. But what you can see here is that it doesn't matter what you age you are. You can be 20, 30, 40, 50 or 60. Everyone takes in information they want to hear more than information that they don't. And so we win up with a view like this of ourselves. Our mistakes as teachers, as mentors, as employers is that instead of working with this positive image that people so everly maintain, we try and put a clear mirror in front of them. We tell them, you know, the image is just going to get worse and worse and worse, and it doesn't work.
It doesn't work because the brain will frantically try to distort the image using Photoshop and fancy lenses until it gets the image it's happy with. But what would happen if we went along with how our brain works and not against it? Take hand washing for example. So we all know that hand washing is the #1 way to prevent the spread to disease, and this is really important in hospitals. So in a hospital here in United States, a camera was installed to see how often medical staff do in fact sanitizer hand before and after entering patient rooms. Now, the medical staff knew a camera was installed. Nevertheless, only one in 10 wash their hand before and after entering a patient rooms. But then an intervention was introduced, an electronic board that told the medical staff how well they were doing. Every time you wash your hand, the number went up on the screen and it showed you your rate of your current shift and the rate of the weekly staff. What happened? Boom.
Complete freeze to many person, which is absolutely amazing. And the research survey, we are amazed as well. And they made sure to replicate in another division in the hospital again. The same research, so why do this? Well, because instead of using warnings about bad things that can happen in the future, like a disease, it used three participles that we know really drive your mind and your behaviors. Let me explain. So the first one is social incentive in the hospital study, and the medical staff can see the rate of the staff the the rate of the week. We are social people. We really care other people are. So do we want to the same and want to do what we want to do it better.
This is an image from a study that we conducted, led by PhD student Michael Delson. And what is showing you is a signal in the emotional center of your brain when you hear about the opinion of others. And we found was that is a signal can predict how lucky you are to convert at a later time, how likely you are to change your behavior. So, the British government are using this principle to get people to pay taxes on time. And only to that, the sense of people who forget to pay taxes on time, they simply stressed how important it was to pay taxes, and that didn't help. Then, they added one sentence. The sentence said 9 of the people in the British pay taxes on time. And that one sentence enhanced complete weighted by the group, that group by 15%, and is thought to bring into the British government 5.6 billion pounds. So, highlighting what other people are doing is really strong incentive. The other principle is immediate rewards. So, every time the stock washed their head, they could see the number go up in the board and it made them feel good. And knowing that the advance made them do something that they otherwise may not want to do. Now, this works because we value immediate rewards, rewards that we can get now, more than the rewards we can get in the future.
And people tend to think it's because we don't care about the future, but that's completely wrong. We all care about our future, right? We want to be happy and healthy in the future, we want to be successful, but the future is so far away. I mean, maybe you'll behave badly now, you'll be fine in the future, and maybe you'll be altogether dead. And so, the here and now, you would rather have the tangible dream, the tangible bond, rather than something that's uncertain in the future. If you think about it, it's not altogether irrational, right? You are choosing something sure now rather than something that is unsure in the future. But what will happen if you reward people now for doing action that are good for them in the future? Studies show that giving people immediate reward make them more likely to quit smoking, more likely to start exercising, and this effect lasts for at least 6 months because not smoking becomes association with a reward and exercising becomes association with a reward and it's become a habit, it's become a lifestyle. So we can reward ourselves and others now for behaving in ways that are good for us in the future, and that's a way for us to bridge the temporal gap. So the electronic board focus the medical staff attention on improving their performance. This is an image from a study that we conduct that shows you brain activity suggestive of a vision, coding of positive information about the future. And what we found was that the brain does a really good job at this, but it doesn't do such a good job at processing negative information about the future. So what does this mean? It means that if you're trying to get people attention, you might want to highlight the progress, not the time. So, for example, take the kid with the cigarette. You might want to tell them, know if you stop smoking, you'll be better sport. At least the progress, not the decline.
Now, before I sum up, let me just this small anecdote with you. A few weeks ago, I got home and I found this bill on my fridge. And I was really surprised because there's never any bills on my fridge. So I was wondering why my husband decided to put under our fridge. And so looking at the bill, I could see that what this bill was trying to do is get me to be more efficient with my electricity use. And how was it doing it? Social incentivity, immediate rewards, and progress monitoring. Let me show you. Here the social insensitivity. In gray is the energy used on the average energy of people in my network. And in blue is my energy use. And in green is the most efficient network. And my reaction to this was, my immediate reaction was I'm little bit better than average. A tiny bit, but still, and my husband had exactly the same reaction. And I want to get to the green bar. And then I get smiley face. That was my immediate reward and it was telling me you are doing good. And it made me want to put this on my fridge. And although I have this one smiley face, I can see an opportunity there to get to smiley face. So there's an opportunity for progress and it's showing me my progress throughout the year. How my energy use changed throughout the years. And the last thing, this bill gave me a sense of control. So it gave me a sense of I was in control of my use of electricity. And that is really important thing. If you try to get people to change their behavior because the brain is constantly trying to seek way to control its environment, it's one of the principles of what the brain is actually doing. And so giving people a sense of control is a really important motivator. Okay, so what I'm not saying that we do not need to communicate risks, and I'm not saying that there's one solution fits all. But I'm saying that if we want to motivate change, we might want to rethink how we do it, because the fear of losing your health, the fear of losing money, induce inaction, will the trade-off again induce action, and so to change behavior in ourselves, in others, we might want to try this positive strategy rather than traits which really capitalize on the human tendency to seek progress. Thank you.